Hey everyone, welcome to Mountain Beast Mysteries. Today I wanted to talk about a Bigfoot experience that happened back in 1969 in British Columbia. It happened just south of a place called Rossland. There were 4 young people, they were teenagers, inside of a car, 2 girls in the back seat. The person who actually submitted this report back in the day was 17 at the time. And her brother was driving the car, and her brother's girlfriend was in the passenger seat in the front. So they were driving this car up this really windy road that was full of hairpin turns. Supposedly, the way they describe it, it was a pretty intense drive up to this mountaintop, essentially. They called the road the Summit Road. And what these people planned on doing was to take the car up this mountain and spend the night looking at the sky, watching for UFOs to hopefully, catch a glimpse of one of these things. They were UFO hunting, and apparently this mountain that they went to was very popular among the younger people. They would drive up to this place where there's a lookout, and they would watch the stars and, fool around, because that's what young people do. But they got more than they bargained for. They ended up seeing something that they did not expect to see on the way up the mountain. So they're driving up this road, and the driver, the brother, was supposedly very focused on the road, as he should be. They were about to hit this hairpin turn when, in the beam of the headlights beyond the road, the brother was focused on the road. He didn't see the Bigfoot creature, but the 2 people in the back seat did. Beyond the road, there was a creek, and it was visible in the headlights. And at the creek was apparently a gray-colored Sasquatch creature kind of hunched over the water. And it was what looked like drinking the water. And when it saw the car headlights and heard the car coming, it stood up, turned away towards the woods, and just slowly walked off into the darkness. The person who reported the encounter, they didn't know anyone else really saw it until they heard the person sitting beside them crying. They were sobbing and they were a mess. And she's like, did you see that? And she's like, yeah, I saw that. I don't know what that was. They were so disturbed and freaked out that they could barely even talk about it, really. They could just sit there and cry. So when you see something that is so unusual, something that you're not supposed to see, it kind of gives that effect. You don't know how to process it, because everything you thought you knew is, different now. Now anything's possible, because you saw, what you might suspect to be a monster of sorts, a creature, something that isn't supposed to exist, and then you find out, yeah, it actually exists. It's actually real. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I saw it, and I know what I saw. And in the report, they say too, I have the image burned into my mind. I will never forget it. And that's also usually what happens when you see something like that. Especially when you look at credible reports, a lot of times people will say dude, I will never forget that. The image is so fresh in my head. It was so shocking that I will never forget it. And I can kind of relate to that with some of the weird stuff that I've seen. I will never forget it. And I'm very certain of the things I've seen, as far as paranormal stuff goes and UFO stuff and whatnot. But the brother and the girlfriend in the front, they didn't see it. They weren't paying attention. The girlfriend was blabbering and talking to the boyfriend, and he was focused on the road, looking at the road and not beyond the road. And in the far reaches of the headlights. But the 2 people in the back seat saw this. Supposedly in the area, there was other Bigfoot reports as well that had happened previously. I guess there were some hunters who shot a deer, and they had to go grab their truck and then drive it back up to where the deer was. So they actually strung the deer up in a tree so that a bear wouldn't get to it. There wasn't a lot of time between them grabbing the truck and returning to the deer, but they grabbed the truck, and when they started driving back and they approached the deer, there was a Sasquatch creature standing there reaching up towards the deer, and it supposedly actually grabbed it and pulled it down. And then I guess there was some lady at her home who out the window saw a Sasquatch creature standing under a streetlight. But in this encounter at the creek, they did end up going back and investigating and having a look at the site, and they couldn't find any footprints or anything like that, because I guess the ground was frozen. That's what they claimed in the report anyways. But it was the next day, I think, that they went back to have a look, but they couldn't find really anything. They were able to surprise this Sasquatch creature. Like, the creature was probably distracted by the sound of the creek, which allowed the car to get within, visual distance. And then when he saw like the headlights coming, he just got up and casually walked off. You see that a lot in some of these reports, and even like the Patterson footage. Look at the Patterson footage. Patty is not like running away. She's very calm, and she just casually walks off. Some people think it's because she's actually diverting the people's attention away from, I guess, juveniles that may or may not have been there. There's nothing that actually backs up the claim that there's juveniles in the Patterson film site at the time of the filming, but it's speculated that maybe that's what she was doing, and that's why she's so calmly walking away. But I've read a few encounters where the behavior is very similar, where they're not frantically dashing off to get away. It's almost like, I don't know, it's just a very relaxed way of moving, which is kind of weird behavior. I don't know why they wouldn't try and get out of sight as fast as possible. Things like streams, though, are great for us too. Like, if we maybe want to have Sasquatch come into a research area, if our research area is by a waterway, like a river or a creek, if you set up your camp there, you're giving them an advantage, like a tactical advantage. They can use that to sneak up on you, and give them other advantages too if you want. Give them high ground if there's hills around you or anything like that. Give them those advantages so that they feel a little bit more comfortable approaching you and checking you out and checking your camp area out. You can maybe utilize some of those things to actually bring on an encounter. But keep note as well, when you're walking along riverways, you might stumble upon something because they might not be able to hear you. So any sort of waterway, keep your eyes out. Keep your eyes out, not just for Sasquatch, but for other things as well, footprints and other sort of strange anomalies, rock stacks and things of that nature. A lot of these Sasquatch reports, especially in British Columbia, happen on roadways. People catch them in the headlights. They cross the road really fast. They make mistakes. They just get caught out in the open, or they get startled, they get surprised, and they make that mistake, and they end up getting spotted. It happens so often. I think if I'm going to see Sasquatch, it'll probably be like me driving up and down the Forestry Trunk Road here in Alberta, and that's how I'll probably see one, is in the headlights of the car. It would be worth, if you're going out into some of these areas, it'd be worth just driving up and down the gravel roads, the back roads at night. Have a dash cam, have a good quality dash cam, and just drive the roads and explore. But that seems to be a good way to surprise these things, is to be in a vehicle that's moving at a high rate of speed. If you're on your way to a Sasquatch research area, odds are you'd probably see a Sasquatch on the way there. They didn't get to see their UFO, but they certainly got to see something very, very weird, even weirder in my opinion. I feel like seeing something like a Sasquatch would be a lot more alarming and disturbing than seeing a UFO. I've seen what I believe 100% to be UFOs. And my initial reaction was that of pure fear and terror, but it doesn't feel like it would be anywhere near as shocking as seeing a 7 or 8 feet tall, upright, hairy beast. Essentially like a monster in the wilderness that roams the wilderness and is lurking around at night in the trees, in the darkness. Just knowing that thing is out there, that is creepy. It would probably make a person not want to go camping ever again. There's a lot of people, a lot of hunters who will see these things and they'll refuse to go back out into the wilderness by themselves. So that's the effect that they have on people. Supposedly they can zap people and, you know, like affect the electromagnetic field in some ways to affect like how we feel. But also it's just so alarming that it is just fear. Like you're so scared and disturbed by what your eyes are seeing because you know you shouldn't be seeing it because it's supposed to not be real, but there you go, there it is. And now you just have to live with people not believing you for the rest of your life. That's all I wanted to talk about today. We'll see you next time on Mountain Beast Mysteries.